Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay Mizoka, and welcome to another My Thoughts On. The new 2019 animated film adaptation of The Addams Family is now out in UK cinemas. About time already. So, why not talk about an animated film from MGM that's considered an animated classic? Now, let's go back to the great decade of the 90s. This was back when Disney was big, when they made, a whole bunch of timeless classics like their first film, Snow White, Bambi, Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella. You know that. There were a few companies and studios who were trying to rip off Disney films. But then there are some that may look like Disney films, but they're not. They're actually their own film. And this is where Don Bluth comes in. The legendary Don Bluth. I believe he was an ex-Disney animator. However, he's made a few feature films of his own. There's An American Tale, which is about Fievel looking for his parents. There's The Land Before Time, the first one, about Littlefoot and his friends going to the great beyond, and then his first animated film is The Secret of NIMH. This is based on a series of books. This is his first animated film, and this was released in, I don't remember, I think it's 1985. Point is, it's a very, very old film, and this was before I was even born. Many people consider this to be like an animated classic. It is incredibly underrated, and it's the golden standard, the golden age of Don Bluth. This is like his masterpiece, let's put it that way. So what is The Secret of NIMH about? Well, it's about this mouse, or mice. Mouse is one mouse, and then mice is more than one. It's about Mrs. Brisby, who is a mouse who needs to find this rat, the leader of the rats named Nicodemus, because her son Timothy, or is it Timothy or is it Timmy? I forgot. I think it is Timmy. That explains the sequel, which I will not talk about. His son is sick, and also because it's moving day because of NIMH, which is the National Institute of Mental Health. That's a bit odd for a title, but that is what the film is about. And she needs to move with her family: Teresa, the oldest, Martin, Cynthia, and Timmy, who is the second one. She meets Jeremy, who is this crow, who's the comic relief, and is also just kind of, he's just kind of there just to help her along the way. She also meets Justin, who is the supposed love interest, and this villain named Jenna, and she just needs help, really. She needs help to get her family moving, to help her son. And where do I begin? Usually animated films nowadays, in terms of their storytelling, if you exclude Pixar, Disney, like maybe Blue Sky, Illumination, and Aardman, their storytelling has been very formulaic and the same, really. And keep in mind, this was back when animated films were considered really dark. They were still considered for children. Water shut down. Anyways, the storytelling in The Secret of NIMH is amazing. There is so much wonder, there is so much dark. This film leaves you with questions that you want to know more of. Like you want to know more about the story of NIMH and why they want to experiment on animals like rats, rabbits, and all that. The film is also just very endearing. I mean, yeah, people might consider it to be boring, but I was never bored. I was fully on board. I was hooked on what Mrs. Brisby had to do. I thought the movie had a very calm sense of atmosphere, and it told its story with something quite beautiful and something that I've never really seen all that much in these animated films. Yeah, it can be a bit cartoony, and the humour is very light-hearted, and it's not very, laugh out loud or clever. That's not really the film's strongest point. Yes, it can be a little chuckle-worthy, but it's not. I wouldn't categorize this film as a comedy. Even with Jeremy's antics, it's more like a fantasy adventure thriller drama. It's about a mouse trying to save her family from NIMH and a rat and a giant cat, even though the cat isn't in the film for that long. It's just that the sense of wonder and the sense of even I can't say the word unpredictability. It shows the film has more to offer than just a simple story and light-hearted humour. It tells its story with something wonderful. It tells its story with heart, and It's not shy to tell us dark facts about Nim and the rats. And I think thanks to Don Bluth's direction, it shows that this film has more than just to be a generic animated kids film. Even though it's rated U, I wouldn't call this necessarily a family film. You could argue it's probably the closest to being a family film, even though it's technically not, despite the U rating. It has something here for animation fans, and it has something for people who like dark animated films. There are even characters who get killed, and it shows. Hold on. Not just that they get killed, but you do see like maybe one or two characters get killed on screen, and there's blood, and there's fighting, so it's not shy away to be dark. And I like that, and I like when films get dark. Not all the time, but now and then. What else can I say? The storytelling, the directing, the writing, the wonder, the fantasy. This story is so masterful and it's so well put together that it's kind of a original story, if you can even call it that. I will, because it's really well told. And that's what Don Bluth is certainly good at. Animation. Oh my god. I've missed 2D animation. I mean, yes, CGI 3D animated films and stop motion is wonderful, but 2D is something special. I mean, the backgrounds in this film look gorgeous. You know, in the field near the farmer's house, Mrs. Brisby's home. You know, even where the rats are, it looks mystical, mysterious, and beautiful too. It makes me. It really does make me miss those 2D animated films a lot, because they always look beautiful and there's always effort. Every character in this film has a distinct design. You can tell who Mrs. Brisby is. You can tell who Jeremy is, Justin, Jenna, Mr. Ages, Dragon, the children, the auntie, Nicodemus, even the great owl. They are all expertly well drawn, and you can tell there's effort in there. And it's always fascinating to see how these 2D animated films were drawn, because they look so beautiful and so well put together, and you can tell there's like genuine emotion coming from these characters instead of being average looking, and it just makes me, I mean, genuinely, it just makes me miss. Sorry about that, but yeah, it makes me miss the wonder and just the amazingness of 2D, like the Disney films, and you got like like one or two, or maybe three from DreamWorks, like Prince of Egypt, and all that. The road to El Dorado. I don't know. I kind of wish they can bring it back, but since people are more used to 3D to animated films and stop motion, it's kind of sad that we don't really see that much from 2D. And back then, this before Toy Story, and this we had this and stop motion, and it shows here. It does have its cartoony moments, but that's mainly because of Jeremy. It has speed, it has lighting, it has wonder, it has darkness, it has everything you want from an animated film. I can see people mistaking this as a Disney film, even though, again, it's not. But don't fool yourself. Again, this director used to be an ex-Disney animator, so you can clearly see some inspiration from Disney. But overall, the animation clearly doesn't look dated at all. It looks timeless, beautiful, well crafted, well drawn, just a magical looking film, and that's all I've got to say about it. Characters and acting. Mrs. Brisby is so endearing. She's kind, she has heart, she's likable, she's even badass at times. I loved her, and I thought her journey was very endearing, and I rooted for her throughout the entire film. And she's lovely. I think she's a really, really endearing main character. Jeremy is the comic relief who I thought was fine. He didn't take away too much from the film. I thought he was funny enough, and I thought he was pleasant enough. And not only that, but he does help Mrs. Brisby in a few scenes, but that's about it. You could kind of argue his point in the film is unneeded since he doesn't do a lot. But he's still likable and funny enough, so I can't argue with that, right? Right. You got the children, you got Teresa, Martin, you've got Cynthia, you've got Timothy, who are basically more like the obstacles for Mrs. Brisby, but they do have personalities of their own. With Teresa being the oldest and the most sensible one, Martin being the so-called, the tough one, and Cynthia being the curious and cute one, and Timothy being the sick one. You've got Mrs. Ages, who is a great supporting character, although a bit grumpy. Justin is a great supporting character and a helper to Mrs. Brisby. Nicodemus is mysterious and wise. The Great Owl is only there for one scene, but does help Mrs. Brisby out a lot. You've got Jenna, who is the main villain, whose goal is, I suppose, understandable, maybe a bit controversial, but at most I thought he was a pretty good villain, pretty threatening, and he has a decent plan, and his goal is, well, it's understandable. Sullivan, who is like his right-hand man, is, well, you can guess what happens to him. Just trying to think who else. There's Dragon, but you think he'd be in the film longer, but he's in it for like, I don't know, for like maybe 2 or 3 scenes, and you just never see him again. And again, this film leaves you with questions, not as in like, what happened now? It's just like you really want more from these characters. The voice acting, honestly, is just lovely. Every character performed by these voice actors, they seem to put everything into their performances. Love, charm, just wonderful. Maybe except for Jeremy, who is voiced by is it Don DeLuise? I think so, isn't it? Who's more comedic than ever, but still wonderful. Characters, they don't need to be simple. They can always be however you want them to be. Magical, likable, memorable, endearing, along with some charming voice acting. These characters feel more real as they were with NIMH, I suppose. On a side note, the score by the late Jerry Goldsmith is just mystical, magical, and just wonderful. The song Flying Dreams is also just beautiful also. You know, first film from Don Bluth, it can also mean it could be terrible, but that depends who you're talking to. However, this one is a masterpiece. The Secret in NIMH is not only Don Bluth's magnum opus, but it's also one of the most original, curiously creative, beautiful animated 2D films I've seen. It has a story with so much wonder and mystery to it and fantasy. The animation is so revolutionary. The characters are memorable and they serve a purpose, mostly. The voice acting is charming and just lifeful. The music is beautiful and I forgot the Auntie Stru, who is okay. She's just okay. Anyways, if you haven't seen this film, I don't know if you'll be able to find it. I mean, if you live in America, you might be able to find it on DVD. In the UK, it's kind of rare to find this film anywhere besides probably VHS. This film gets a 10 out of 10, despite some of its questionable choices, but it is a wonderful, wonderful, timeless classic. And the film leaves you with so many questions and theories, and that's what I love as well. Even if there are questions that don't make sense and you want to know answers to, it leaves you with something that you want more of. Lots of films do that in a good way, not in a bad way, and this film does it in a good way. So yeah, would I be doing my thoughts on Land Before Time and American Tail? Most likely, but I don't know when. Because they're both actually Universal. This one's MGM, but that's for another time. So yeah, tomorrow I'm seeing Addams Family, which I am really doubting because, oh boy, I've not heard good things about it, but I'm going to give it a chance because that's what I do. So expect my thoughts on to be uploaded tomorrow or Sunday, but most likely it will be tomorrow. We'll see. So yeah, if you have seen the film, and if you haven't, where have you been living these years? For all these years, go watch it. It is truly, truly wonderful. Yeah, do you think it's good, bad, decent? Do you want to see it? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.